What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dom and Pop DC Sports Talk Plus podcast. You already know what it is. Divisional round of the playoffs. Bada bet. We're getting right into it, and we might hit a little bit of Commanders talk later in the episode. But Bada bets. Let's do this thing. Pot, how you doing, man?
A little bit of angst in the production meetings.
Tensions are running high. Pre-production meeting took about it was 23 minutes, so it took about 20 minutes longer than he usually does. There's a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of creative differences, but we're here. We're working it
How
all
you
out.
doing? I'm glad that you remembered that we do this podcast. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, of course, it's always a pleasure to be here talking Commanders with my pop, talking football. This week, obviously, like I said in the intro, a little less Commanders, a little more NFL. We're going to go around. If you watched last week's episode, go back, check it out again just to see the brilliance that was my bracket run in last week and also my bada bets. If you didn't, you missed out. Go back, watch it again.
I don't know.
We are.
R. Wilson on Twitter is giving you a run for your money.
Here we are. We're gonna get in. We're gonna get into the whole thing, right? We're gonna break it down, and we got the divisional round coming up. I mean, Pop. First of all, just real quick, give me some reactions to last week. I mean, what a weekend of football, right?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, other than that Monday night game was kind of a dud, pretty disappointing for us Commanders fans. But
Yeah,
now some great games. I mean, that Jags comeback was unreal, and no one expected the Dolphins to play the Bills that tight. Made a game of it. So yeah, some great games. Me dispiace for our Ravens insider. Very painful situation with that game. I mean that fumble return, that was crazy. I really bled
yeah.
for my you know Ravens fans, friends, especially, and family, especially the Ravens insider. That was just brutal.
Yeah, that was tough. I'm split. I got half of my body. Since I was a little kid, half of me just wants everything to go as wrong as humanly possible for the Ravens. But you grow up, the world changes. Now I got loved ones that care about the Ravens as much, maybe more, than we care about the Commanders. And so that half of me wants them to do well. It's tough, but
How
that was
happy
a
were you that your
hard way to
beloved New
lose.
York Giants came through?
I was pretty happy. I mean, they're not my beloved New York Giants, but I was just so
I don't
happy to
know.
stick it to you. I was so happy to
For
stick
you
it to you.
regular listeners, you've heard the love throughout the season. I don't know. Might see a Saquon Barkley jersey here soon.
Don't conflate. Hey, he's a good dude. He's a good dude. I hear from a lot of people. But don't if you know, you know. Don't conflate my respect for the New York Giants and the way they've been running things. It's jealousy
What was
is
that
what it
word?
is. It's
Conflate?
jealousy. Don't conflate. You need to look that up. You want to take a break
Is
and
that a
Google that
word?
one?
Conflate?
That's a word. That's a word.
Sure, it's a
It
word.
means, yes, it is. It means to take your intentions and to make them into something else.
Oh,
It's a word. Look it up. English with Dom and Pop. Anyways, we've been talking for too long without getting into some results. Let's get into the brass tacks here. See,
I don't
Pop,
want
he's
to talk
trying to
about
push
it.
it off.
I don't want to
Because
talk
Pop
about it.
had a miserable week last week. Absolutely awful. Pop was 1-5 against the spread. It was just an absolutely brutal turn of events for Pop there. I went 3-3. So if you want to know the individual picks, like I said, go back to last week, laugh about it. We were both pretty wrong in some areas, but I
We've
mean,
got shorts out there too.
I
You
did
could,
pretty well too.
if you
Yeah,
want
check
to take
out the
the
shorts
short
if you
route.
want to check out
I
the
mean, we
shorts.
prefer the long form, like, subscribe, but
Yeah,
we appreciate. We are getting more and more views. Momentum is building. We appreciate that from everybody.
yep. So without further ado here, let's get into this week. We're on to
get off these
Cincinnati.
records. You got to bounce
We're on
back.
to Cincinnati. Pop's got to bounce back. You got to, quarterbacks, defensive backs, and betters. You got to have short memories. You got to
These
erase
are
the
these
best.
are tough games with Vegas knows what they're doing with the
Yeah,
spreads. These are like flip of the
yeah.
coin. These are
This is
flip of the coin
always
picks this week.
this time of year for me personally. This is when I lose money gambling. This is a bad time of year for me gambling wise. It's easier during the regular season. You kind of catch them snoozing. You can kind of catch a team that maybe is hot against a team that's cold, but is a better team. Playoffs, man, Vegas knows what they're doing. So it's tough. Gamble responsibly, of course. Here we go. Without further ado, the first tough line, in my opinion, Jags at the Chiefs, -9.5. What do you think? You think the Chiefs are winning by 10 points, Pop?
Man, man. It just feels like this is one. Feels like whichever way you go is going to be wrong. I don't know. I'm just going to go. My gut hasn't really been working, but I just think the Jags are going to keep it closer than 9.5.
I am going to go against you there. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'll tell you why. I think throughout this entire year, it's all been Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so. He's amazing. But I think something that has made a big difference for the Chiefs this year and why I think they're so dominant is their defense has taken a huge step forward. And I just think Jacksonville going to be a little bit hungover. I think this is the kind of team where if Lawrence throws half the interceptions he threw in that first game, they're going to bury him. And I think Kansas City is going to come out like a house on fire at home. I'm taking the Chiefs
It's
minus
a
9
convincing argument. I hate picking
for sure.
against the Chiefs, but
Yeah,
anyway.
I'd rather be wrong picking with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Then we got Saturday night. This one hurts. Giants at Philly, -7.5. Why do I say this one hurts? Well, we were looking down the barrel of two back-to-back games against the Giants, and we said, hey, maybe we knock out Minnesota in the first round. We get a chance to go back up to Philly, make some magic happen. Could have been us. Anyways, Giants at Philly -7.5. What do you think there, Pop?
My first mistake betting with Captain Kirk. He squeezed one at the end there. You know that 5 yard
It's a
route.
completion. It's a completion.
My gosh. Um, I think I just look at these two teams and you see the Giants building in momentum these last several games. The Philly, was kind of backing their way to a degree into that first seed. They didn't finish the season that strong. It was just that fast start until we broke them. So I think the Giants are going to keep it closer than 7.5, maybe even pull off an upset here.
Yeah, I'm
And
with
even
you on
I
that.
picked Philly to go to Super Bowl. So, oh
Yeah,
man, that could hurt. But
I'm. You know, I was gonna say I'm with you on that one, but I'm not. I'm gonna take the
damn, you're
Philadelphia
going
Eagles.
against your boys. Did I guilt you
I'm gonna
into
take the
that?
Philadelphia Eagles, and
Oh
here's
man,
why. Here's why I'm gonna take the Philadelphia Eagles. First of all reports are Jalen Hurts. It's basically like it's week one. He's fresh. He's good to go. Totally healthy, ready to play. So that's important. Secondly, that both are such well coached teams with Nick Sirianni, our paisan, and Brian Daboll, Dad's favorite coach in the entire NFL. Both are such well coached teams. You got to look at the talent. And in my opinion, I just think the talent disparity of Philadelphia is so wide. And I think that Giant secondary sucks. And I think AJ Brown is going to eat. You got Devonta Smith. I think he's going to eat. And I think ultimately, who a lot of people were saying is the best team in football, seems to be the most slept on team right now because they kind of cooled off. So I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles, 7.5 points at home. I think they're going to absolutely wipe the floor with them. Let's get on to Sunday. Bengals at Bills. Bills are 5.5 point favorites there. What do you like, Pop?
yeah, this is another tough one. But I know people are high on that the Bengals because they were a Super Bowl team last year, but I just don't. I also feel like there's not a team playing their best football. They could have. They you could argue they got outplayed by the Ravens. I know our Ravens insider will like that one, but I really felt that after that game. I think the Bills are going to do it. I think they're gonna pull away in this one, win at home. I know they played a lot tougher game. Maybe it's a bit wake up call, but I like the Bills here.
So it's interesting you say that because I could almost use your exact same argument against you here, in that the Bills certainly. How could you say this team is playing their best football? They couldn't even cover against the third string quarterback. It's a tough one. Mike McDaniel came out, he exposed them. So that Bills defense is looking really questionable to me. I picked the Bengals to upset in the bracket, and I'm taking the Bengals here, 5.5 points. I think if the Bills win, it's by a field goal. I
Damn, we
just don't
haven't
see.
picked we haven't picked one game the same. I love it.
It's a volatile week. It's a
I love
volatile
it.
week here. I just don't see personally how, if you're only beating Skylar Thompson, no disrespect, but if you're only
One
beating
game.
Skylar Thompson by 3 points, how, or Joe Burrow? And I think personally, I don't take a lot away from the Bengals in terms of how they're playing their football against the Ravens, because I think the Ravens are just a really, really good football team that got hampered by injuries. Otherwise,
Well, and
probably a
and Cincinnati
Super Bowl
did
level
have
team.
they've had the Bills on their heel in that last game before it ended, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And thank goodness Damar Hamlin's doing really well.
of course.
So yeah,
And
I
I
mean
think,
there's that too, but it wasn't Cincinnati. This is in Buffalo. Damar Hamlin's getting better and better. That might give them a bit of an emotional boost. But you
yep,
make a good argument. It's like I said, these games are hard. These
yeah,
are
it's tough.
flips of the coin. I just hope my luck turns around this week. I got a
This one,
feeling we're going to agree on this next one, though.
yeah, this one I think we'll agree on. Cowboys at 49ers, 49ers 4 point favorites there. The big question going into this one, Pop, Dak Prescott looked absolutely phenomenal against Tampa Bay. I think the Cowboys are going to live by Dak or they're going to die by Dak this offseason. I don't think there's a middle ground. Do you think he can keep it up? And do you think the Cowboys upset the darling team of the NFC and Brock Purdy, the San Francisco 49ers, a team that Dom has been hot on all year, by the way? 4 point favorites. What do you think?
I mean, again, it's kind of like which Cowboys team is going to show up, which Dak Prescott is going to show up. We've talked about that. Remember, sexy Rexy for the Redskins. We'd say we're going to get, the good Rex or the bad. I think quarterback. I think Dak's got a little bit of that going for him. Is it going to be the good Dak or the bad Dak? But yeah, that wouldn't completely shock me if the Cowboys pulled it off. They did look really good, and I
Yep.
still keep wondering about Brock Purdy. Is that bubble going to burst at some point? But 49ers have been hot. That defense is stifling, and then I think that the Cowboys are that team that if you get to them early and you start to make them press, they seem
Yeah.
to start pressing their way into mistakes. And so I'll stick with my pick of the 49ers winning that game
Yeah,
and covering the points.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers there as well. So there's our first agreement. So somebody 4-0 is on the table next week. Somebody's going to be 3-1 and somebody's going to be 1-3. If that Cowboys 49ers game we
You're
both
not
get
strong
right.
in math. We could actually both be 2-2. Cover all the possibilities there, son.
But we picked against each other the whole way.
Doesn't matter. I mean, if I win one game, then you win one game, and then we, yeah, I guess somebody's
You
gonna
guys
have to have a
let
better
us
record.
know. You
Somebody's
guys
gonna
let
have to have
us
a better
know.
record. You're right. Somebody's gonna have to have a better record. I
That's
don't
what
know.
I
I'm
thought.
confused. It's
That's what
late.
I thought.
It's late. It's been a long week.
Let us know in the comments down below
Do the
what the
math.
hell's gonna happen.
Do the
If you were spending any real money on our advice, take this as a sign to stop doing that and call 1-800 gambler because
I
that's
gotta
a
run
bad
through.
idea.
I gotta run through the scenarios. That could take a while. We'll be back after this short commercial
So
break.
we'll see you guys leading into the Super
Don't
Bowl
leave.
once we
Don't
figure
leave.
out the division strategy.
I'll,
No, no. It's
I'm
all good.
joking.
Uh, yeah,
So let's recap those picks real quick.
so
Rapid fire.
before that, I just want to give my quick take on the Cowboys 49ers game. I just don't know how Dan Orlovsky and his team did a really great breakdown on 21 personnel, which is the offense that the 49ers run, two backs, one tight end. And they're just so positionless and so versatile. After I watched that, I'm just going, how do you defend this team? So go check that out if you haven't. It's a really great video. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. It's about 10 minutes long on Twitter. It's a great watch. And so yeah, that's now let's give our quick recaps. We can start with Jags at Chiefs. Pop, you took the Jags, excuse me. I took the Chiefs. Saturday, we got Giants at Philly. I got Philly. Pop,
I took the Giants.
there we go. Sunday, Bengals at Bills. I got the Cincinnati Bengals in that one. And Pop,
Yep, I had the Bills giving up 5.5 points.
there you go. And then we're together on this one. Cowboys at 49ers. We both took the 49ers -4 here. So you guys will see that. We'll probably make a short of that at some point. We'll have the point spreads up on the screen for you there. Let's get into our brackets. This will be a quick check-in. If you guys want to go game by game on the brackets, you can. We had a few people join in, so we want to thank and give shout outs to those people. So want to give a shout out to R. Wilson on Twitter. I don't know if that's the exact handle, but that's what's here. Maybe we could flash the handle up. He was 5 of 6, did pretty well. Missed the Dallas game. Um, and then our Ravens insider also joined in here, and he was 4 of 6. He missed the Cincinnati and the Jacksonville game. You knew the Ravens insider had to take the Ravens. I mean, I respect the consistency there. So Pot was also 4 and 6 in his bracket. He lost to the Giants, fitting because he's been sleeping on them all year, and the Cowboys. And then I was 5 of 6. I missed the Dallas one. So again, if you want to see the individual ones, check out our Twitter. We outlined that for you there, and we put everything up. We put a YouTube link to our picks, and then everybody else who participated tweeted their brackets at us. So check in, follow along. We'll see how this goes.
And
It's going to be
if you want to jump
a
in
fun
now
ride.
and join the party for the rest of the ride, go for
Yeah,
it.
why not? Jump in, join the party. As always, we welcome you tweeting us our picks, getting to it. I mean, we've broken down all the games and the records and stuff. I don't think it's worth going through the games
No,
individually, right? I think we
no, I
got
agree.
everything's up there. And
Just
frankly,
by the way, it's at Wilson 27.
at Wilson 27, it may or may not be Russell Wilson. He's got a lot of time on his hands this time of year, so we don't really know. He's currently revamping his entire routine, apparently, to prepare for next season. Let us know if you're actually Russell Wilson, I guess. That would be helpful. And then don't watch the episodes where we've talked about you because you're not going to like the answers. So let's get into some Commander stuff. What do you say, Pop? We got a few minutes to kill here. There's some news to break. So let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
You down? So Dad's favorite topic, Pop's favorite topic, we'll save for I guess we'll save for last or second to last. But the quick hits, Fanatic Sportsbook just opened at FedEx Field. So that's exciting. I don't know how much action it's going to be getting this time of year when nobody's at FedEx Field, but that'll be really cool in the fall when you're at the games. You can actually just go place your bets in person. Maybe it's a fun environment. Pop, you'll have to take a field trip there and let us know. Maybe do a little vlog while
Yeah,
you're
I could
hanging
do a
out.
live remote.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. Maybe do they sell ice cream there? Maybe you could do an ice cream review at the FedEx Field.
I'll figure it out.
The gears are turning. The gears are turning.
I'll
If not,
figure.
you can do it at the McDonald's across the street.
I'll
The
figure it
gears are
out.
turning. So Fanatic Sportsbook opened up, and then obviously, if you haven't heard by now, you've probably been living under a rock. But Scott Turner fired. Um, we can give our quick reactions to that. I guess I think everybody's kind of given their takes on it at this point, but I think Pop and I are pretty much in agreement. I don't think he did enough to keep the job, personally,
Well,
right?
it had to be done, and I think I find it
Yeah,
kind of interesting where everybody's calling for Scott's head, and now that they're this snooze fest, which you'll get into. I'm not selling it very well of the offensive coordinator candidates. Now people are like, oh, we should have just kept Scott Turner. Like, come on. It's obvious a change to me had to be made. And I think one thing that I sat and thought about was like being an offensive coordinator, it is literally like the 12th offensive player on the field. Like it's different, I think, than any other coaching job because
yeah,
you're calling plays like you know you've got 30 seconds to not even 30 seconds because you got to call it in the next 5 or 10 seconds that next play based on what just happened. And I think it's much more of a rhythm that you get in, and I think it's one of those things that people either have a knack for it or they don't. They get in
read
that
my
rhythm
mind.
or
You
they
read my
don't.
mind.
And it was obvious that he wasn't in that rhythm. And even when you know, uh, Logan Paulson had some good breakdowns and said he just wasn't setting up the next play really well. And there just wasn't a rhythm from play to play. And it just
Yep,
wasn't happening with Scott. And I think that, maybe he can figure it out. Maybe he needed to go through this experience. I wish him well. He seems like a great guy, but
yeah.
change had to be made. And I think obviously that's almost unanimous amongst fans.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was going to have to be going into the year, it looked like it was going to be Del Rio. But there was going to have to be some kind of sacrificial lamb if this team didn't make the playoffs. And Del Rio got his act together, got the defense together, deactivated his Twitter account, and really did a good job. So it
Yeah.
couldn't be him. And then you look at the numbers with Scott Turner, and a lot of people are frustrated, and rightfully so, because how much can things really change under Ron? And I think that's for another podcast. I think we'll do a whole postseason breakdown at another time when there's not so much national football going on. Um, but I think you look at the numbers and it's hard to justify keeping Turner around. And especially when you look at the numbers, considering the playmakers that we have and considering, the flashes that we've seen of
Well, and
really
the
great
reports, I
play.
mean, players were making comments after games that didn't see that positive, and then you get the reports of
Yeah.
nine players anonymously talking to the Post about how they weren't happy with it. So I think probably even more than public sentiment, the fact that the locker room was expressing concern, I think that probably meant more to Ron than anything in terms of making that decision. I'm sure on a personal level, it's not a decision he wanted to have to make, but
Yeah.
um, of course, you hear reports after the fact that Scott wasn't in favor of Carson Wentz coming on board, and there's always that rumor mill drama stuff happening. But
Who was?
yeah, I think it's interesting take though, like on the defense. I think there were really two major turnaround points. It was the coaching change on the defensive line. I really think
Yeah.
that we forgot about that from early in the season, but I really think that was a pivotal change there. And the change of cornerback, right? I mean,
Yep.
the fact that they finally made the decision to cut William Jackson. I think those two things really changed the course of the defense. And it was almost like addition by subtraction in a way that got
Yeah.
that rhythm rolling. And yeah, you got to give Del Rio credit. I mean,
And
being a
shout
top
out our
10
boy.
defense, we all said before the season they should be a top 10 defense based on talent, but we were worried about some of the holes at linebacker and at corner. And I mean, they exceeded expectations just about, across the board. And the D line finally played up to expectations, which was great. So good
Yeah.
performance.
And shout out our boy Ryan Kerrigan, got brought on this year,
Yep.
assistant D line coach. He's been tearing it up. I think I'm blanking on the name of the guy that took over, but the
Yeah,
guys
me
love
too.
him. It starts with a Z, I think, and that's a great transition in our offensive coordinator candidates here. And of course, I think Pop made some really great points there. I don't want to elaborate on them now because we'll talk for another 20 minutes. But if you guys liked what you heard, stay tuned. We're going to do a whole postseason breakdown in a couple of weeks, probably after the Super Bowl once things cool down a little bit. And I think we're just going to get on camera and just talk about the season. Just let the boys get, it's going to be like therapy for us, really. Get it off the
That's
chest.
right.
We might even get some couches, like lay back, really. Um, but let's get into some of these OC candidates. I know this is like your least favorite thing to talk about, Pop. But I said coach with last name of Z, little segue, because we got another coach with the last name of Z, positional coach that has been making some waves around town. That's the boy Kevin Zampese. He's our current quarterbacks coach. He has gotten an interview for this offensive coordinator position. So that one's interesting. I'm going to read through all the candidates that have interviewed so far, go over some of the unofficial options, and then maybe we can discuss how we feel about it as a whole. So Pat Shermer, Kevin Sampese, and then those two have already interviewed. And then I think Charles London and Thomas Brown at the time of this recording are due to be interviewing in a short period of time. Soon they will interview. And then some unofficial options that maybe have been tossed around as well. We have Eric Bieniemy of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's an interesting situation. I can break that down in a second. Then we have Greg Roman of the Baltimore Ravens was recently let go. There was a mutual parting of ways, I guess. And then we have Byron Leftwich of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers also was let go. That one coming as a little bit of a surprise. I think from looking on Twitter, it sounds like Bucks fans were not surprised by this, but I think on the national scale, this one came a little bit surprising. So, Pop, I mean, I know it's not your favorite thing to talk about, but are there any candidates on that list that really stick out to you, positive or negative? Do you have a feeling about any of this?
Nope. I know it's the big news right now, but I kind of find it funny how people are.
Yeah.
No one likes anyone that's a candidate, right? So you want to get rid of Scott Turner. I think the team's done a pretty decent job of identifying candidates and so far trying to get people in for interviews. I think it's going to be okay. Like I think trust the
Oh,
process.
I missed one as well, Coach Stoogesville. Um, that's another one. I'm blanking on his first name, but he's either already interviewed or should be interviewing in the next couple of days. I think by the time you guys see this, he might have interviewed.
There, there you
Um,
go.
that's
There you
another
go,
one.
son.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Better be prepared for your
It
segment there.
just hit me.
But
I took notes. If I was going off the top, I probably would have remembered them. I
nah, but
was
I
reading
mean,
the notes.
I won't drone on. This is kind of more your topic. I don't have a passionate opinion. I think it was the right to make the change. I know it's a little. Do I say I trust them to make the right decision?
Yeah,
I don't know, but it sounds like they're going through a pretty thorough process of identifying candidates, and I'm hoping, but we won't know until we know, right? We're not going to know until we get into the games, and I'm sure whoever they pick is going to give a good presser and talk about what they want to do, and hopefully we like what we hear. But I'm happy they made the change, and I'll get behind whoever they pick. It's kind of
yeah.
how I feel about it. Sorry for the
That's
lack of passion on that one. That's just how I feel.
That's a fair take. I mean, it's hard. I think it's just because at this point in the year, as fans, at one point in the season, we really thought we'd have something more exciting to talk about than OC candidates. But unfortunately, that's where we're at. And I think just people are like, you're still so used to so much football input at this time of the year that now you just transfer all of that to the OC search. Real quick, off the top of my head, I guess I have three picks out of the names that I listed that I would want, and that would probably be Thomas Brown for sure. He seems to be McVay's disciple, basically. McVay's he's assistant head coach up there in Los Angeles. He's also the tight ends coach. McVay speaks very highly of him. He's a young guy. I think it's exactly what you need in the OC position. Another one I like, if we're gonna go on the more experienced side, I think I would go with Leftwich. He made Jameis Winston look pretty good, and there's debate over whether it's Arians or it's Leftwich or whatever. But I just think,
Hometown boy,
yeah, I
hometown
think
guy.
and
Yep.
this is a guy that's been there and he knows what it takes. Um, and I don't know. That's more appealing to me. And then again, on the experience side, I do like Eric Studesville. There is the silver lining of it, if things go poorly, Coach Stunad is not too far of a stretch from the last name there, so that could be funny. But you hope we're not calling him that. But I do like Studesville, and exclusively because, well, for two reasons. One, I love what Mike McDaniel's doing down there in Miami. I think he's building a really great program, and if Mike McDaniel likes him, I like him. And on the second point of that, if Brian Mitchell likes him, I like him too. And B. Mitch seems to say that he thinks Studesville would be a hire that a lot of the fan base wouldn't be super excited about, but he knows him personally. He's played for him, and he knows that players love that guy, and he thinks that that would be a really great choice. So, if you guys watch, if you listen to Brian Mitchell, he's a great analyst. He always gives you his honest thoughts. He's not going to go out there blowing smoke. Just listen to what he thinks about hiring Pat Shermer, if you're wondering about that. So if he's endorsing the guy, I'm going to go out on a bet and say that he probably knows a little bit more about football than I do. I'm going to side with him. So those would be my three. Thomas Brown probably be my first choice, but those would be my three. And then I guess the wild card situation, I'm not going to ramble on about this too much longer, don't worry, but I know people want to hear about this, is the Bieniemy situation. Is a little bit funny down there in Kansas City. Um, Basically, he's only on a 1 year contract. It sounds like now that Coach Matt Nagy is back there, people might want Bieniemy gone. And I guess this is his opportunity to go be a play caller, get out from the shadows of Andy Reid, and build his resume to hopefully become a head coach. Um, and why not do that here? I don't know. I mean, I think he'd obviously be the number one choice if he really comes free like that. But should be interesting to see. I know a lot of fans are like, it came out as a conspiracy theory at first, and now like I've heard a few reports where people are like, the most logical landing place for Bieniemy is Washington, which I'm just like, good things don't happen to us. That doesn't make sense. And I
Yeah.
mean, who knows?
So it's
Maybe.
kind of talks to my point earlier, right? Of there are a lot of good options out there. So instead
Yep.
of everyone being negative about it, like I said, it sounds like they're going through a really thorough process of checking it out. I won't. I thought you did a great job breaking it down, so I don't have anything really to add to that. Fantastic
And
work there,
you know
sir.
what? Nobody knew who Brian Johnson was a couple of years ago, the offensive coordinator for the
Lead
Lions.
singer for ACDC?
Not
Oh,
quite. The
okay.
offensive coordinator for the Lions, and he's the hottest name in the head coaching candidacy. Like, these things happen so
Okay.
fast. Let's keep an open mind. Maybe some things work out well. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I was gonna break into a little Back in Black there.
God forbid. I think we should wrap this thing up before we go any further. So, if you guys enjoyed the Commanders talk, stick around. We've
We didn't
got a
even
postseason pod
you
coming for
skipped my
you.
topic.
Oh, of course. How could we do Commanders talk without talking about the owner? Pop, give a quick breakdown on the
Real
ownership
quick,
situation.
this is going to be fast. Great report came out by JP Finley. I guess the headline there was Josh Harris, who's a DC native, DC area native. He owns the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils, and seems to be the top candidate. I think he's also got a piece of English Premier League team as well. Seems to be the top candidate, emerging as a top candidate by the Commanders. Heard a lot of positive things about him. Did get a little bit of an insider scoop on this that somebody who works for the Philadelphia 76ers said there is absolutely no buzz about Josh Harris, and he's not really sure these reports are accurate. We'll
Interesting.
see. I'm going with JP Finley though. And the
Interesting.
other big headline was, that Jeff Bezos has not put in a bid yet. He was everybody's early favorite. I have a theory on Jeff Bezos. I don't think he's going to buy the Commanders because he's not going to play along with Dan Snyder's games, right? Dan wants
Yeah.
to charge Bezos a premium. People don't become billionaires by paying more than the value of a franchise for the franchise. Apparently, he's got interest in the Seahawks too, that there's a chance they may come up for sale. I don't think he's going to play these games, right? I think if Dan's going to do that kind of stuff, I think he's just going to say, I'm out. See ya. The people that kind of come into this, oh, he'll throw an extra $2 bill out there. He's not going to do that.
Even
That's
if
not
he
how these
did,
guys. That's not how these guys operate. That's not how they
well,
became. And it's also a pride thing, right? He's not going to play Dan Snyder's games, so I
I
think
think it,
that's the biggest tipping point with Bezos.
I
Now,
also
unless
think,
unless the NFL steps in and says this is the guy, right? Because it's
which
becoming more
won't
and more
happen.
evident that the NFL is really forcing Dan out. I believe, right? So
Yeah. Great breakdown on that, pot. I would say another point to the Bezos thing. Dan does not want to sell. Dan and Tanya do not want to sell to Jeff Bezos. They hate that guy. They don't like him. So if you think that Dan won't shoot himself in the foot over a couple $1 billion just to not sell to a guy, you haven't been following Dan Snyder the last 23 years. If he says he doesn't want to sell to him, he's not going to sell to him. I think Dan is that prideful, that egotistical, that even if Jeff came in with a Godfather offer, he'd tell him, to stick on the topic of the Godfather, he'd tell him, Afangul, I'm going with the other guy.
if you had to bet on who's the
It's Dan's
smarter of the
choice.
two guys, who would you take?
Jeff, for sure.
Right. So he's not going to play those games with Dan. And
Exactly.
I personally think that
Exactly.
unless the NFL intervenes and says, we want this guy to be the owner, you're on your way out anyway, zip it, sell it to him. It's not going to happen. But I think let's
Yep.
let's wrap it up there. Like you
Yep.
said, we'll spend much more time, plenty of time in the
We
off
can't help
season.
ourselves. We can't
Yeah.
help ourselves when the Commanders come up. It's too close to the heart. Anyways, we hope that's what you guys love us for, is how close it is to the heart. We're gonna wrap things up here. I've been Dom,
This is Pop.
and good luck to everybody this weekend. Good luck on your brackets. Thanks for another great.
Love me, baby.